Yeah, we are live, guys. Yes, and welcome everybody to your favorite Graders Notes. Well, I guess it's the only Graders Notes, but
still the best.
Yeah, true enough. And here we are with the Critical Quartet back together, ready to do whatever we do, punch them, eviscerate, disavow, whatever it is that we do to these comic books that we love doing, because if we're talking about getting deep into comics, that's what we do. We essentially just pick you, and we're like the nitpicker's guide to comic books. You know what I mean? So, and I'm joined again by my three great co-hosts. Let's start to my right, left, some direction of lateral movement. Genome Presents. How you doing, my friend? What's up with you today?
Good evening, fellow friends and comic files. Good to be here as always on the greatest comic book show currently on YouTube. At least it's being watched by the 9 people that are watching it right now. Always a pleasure to get together with my learned brethren here.
Well, I couldn't have said that better or any more eloquently than you can, of course, my dear Gino. Thank you again for you we haven't said this in a while, but you are the originator, the creator, the brainstorm behind this show, and I think we're all very, very glad that you came up with it, because we have just a blast here every 2 weeks, don't we, guys?
Yep, you flatter me, sir. All
right, let's go. Below me, only in direction, never in ascension, and that is to Kenny Comichead 84. One of the most, if not the most lovable guys in the community. Let's just call it what it is. Nobody has ever had anything negative to say about Kenny, even though he's ranked people's channels, and he's still applauded for it. What's up, my friend? What's going on up in Massachusetts there with you?
Oh man, just living the dream. Happy to be part of this Critical Quartet. That was good.
I like it.
That was great alliteration. The Critical Quartet is back. I'm equipped with my Dare shirt. I'm in the mode to, join arm in arm with Nancy Reagan tonight and review this book, man. I'm excited.
Cool. I figure you have a special connection to this book. Yeah. So I'm glad that you're here looking at this particular comic, because I think it's just very different, than anything else we've graded, shall we say. And speaking of something very different, let's go up to the Great White North and talk to a gentleman we were just talking offline, who has very, very interesting lineage. And but that's not that he may not want to explain all that on Graders Notes tonight. But we are very happy to have the very talented Mr. Miracle Comics here with us. And what's up with you today, sir?
Hello. It was a very interesting sort of conversation we're having. But what is up with me? Drugs? No, not drugs. I mean, anti-drugs. Right? And this wonderful PSA issue. Man, I've got a lot to say about issues like this and stuff. You know what issues like this really remind me of? Mm-hmm. I know, like, certain individuals like yourself, they seek them out and they have a collection of PSAs and those kinds of issues. And it just always reminds me that collecting is very personal, right? We all collect differently. We all have our things that we like and our little idiosyncrasies and our collections that make them unique to us. And things like this are like, yeah, there's some guys out there that collect these. Yeah. Anyway, interested to go into it. Guys like you, right? It's just one of those aspects of collecting that were always like personal. It's not something I would personally collect. This kind of thing is like, but it was an interesting thing for you to recommend.
Well, this particular issue kind of comprises 2 of my loves, right? And that is the Marv Wolfman, George Perez team, and the promotional giveaway public service educational comics, which I think, again, when we get to the concept, I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. Before we get started, though, gentlemen, let's go and and talk about this great chat. There are about 11 people here who have deemed to spend part of their evening with us. So let us not be remiss in talking and showing and just showering accolades upon these people for putting up with us for the next couple hours. Hopefully. In as, tailgating early, Las Cruces, mi amigo from New Mexico over there. And then, of course, Ryan Magic Lasso is here with all his Keebler products, but no drugs.
Yeah.
Good job there. Good job, Ryan. And, of course, we have the legend himself, the immortal Biggie Shack, right there, waiting to, again, input his very unique perspective here on Graders Notes. Mr. Miracle, of course, came in to say hello to the audience. And Comichead 84, again, said hi to the audience. Jackson Roy Kirk, I don't know if you can say that there is a chat superstar, but certainly in the running is Jackson Roy Kirk. He is just ubiquitous. He is everywhere and has incredible input as well.
He's both quantity and quality.
You got that right. Collecting Chaos, James, how you doing, my friend? Great collection this guy has, and man, does he know how to handle a comic? He can rest as long as there's a quarter left in the comic. He can somehow resuscitate it. It's amazing videos that he's done had there. Speaking of amazing resuscitation of comics, DS Comics, my buddy from the No Faces chat, is in here. He says, "Hey, Lasso," and this man can bring an 8.0 to what, Kenny? 9.4, 9.6, something like that.
Oh, in his sleep.
In his sleep, yeah. If he really tries, it's a 10, but
Yeah.
It's DS. He only got one pair of pants, so cut him a break. You got Tim the Comic Collector, another incredible. This guy just has video after video of these great finds and mystery boxes that he gets good stuff in. Speaking of good stuff, my buddy Freaky Louie from right here in Florida, who gives away a comic every Friday. Remember to check out his videos tomorrow, and you too could win a key from Freaky Louie. And Super Russ 9000, very, very loyal fan here. Also has a contest, by the way, which you should enter because it's like worldwide and very easy to enter. Aguridum is in here. Great. Another chat superstar, by the way. The art chemist, Arsenio, I think is his name, right? Yeah. I remember you from The Boy Who Had Seven, and you guys meeting up sometime in the past. Joe 4771, another guy. You got to be careful. This guy's got a sharp wit and a sharper tongue, but I love him. Let's see who else is in here. Agu again. I think Alex Big Blue, my buddy from Kentucky. Thank you for being here. I think that's it, guys. All right, for now. Let's hope there's
tremendous personalized introductions. Well done, Roger.
Master MCing.
I love this community, man. I love this community. And we're all, like Mr. Miracle was saying, we're all such unique individuals. We each have such a personal aspect we bring to our videos. That's what makes this community great. We're not cookie cutter here. We're all very different, and that is a good thing. All right, guys. Speaking of different, this is what we're going to be talking about tonight, which the fifth grader from last fortnight chose out of the options they had. And we've never done a comic quite like this before here on Graders. So I'm very curious to know what you guys think about the way that we're going to apply the Graders Notes regulations or the different pigeonholes to this one. So before I get started, let's recap. We're going to each talk about what we think about the cover, the interior art, the story, the concept, and overall. After we're done with our ruminations, we're going to kick it out to you guys in the chat, see what you guys think, because you guys are never wrong. We usually are. And then Genome will take all this data and use all these algorithms, and who knows what he does over there.
And his supercomputer.
Shake it up in a bottle and he will get a raw score for us and for you. And at the end of the day, don't go away, because Genome is going to have 2 doozies for 2 weeks from today. Okay, guys. Are you guys ready to rumble?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's start north. Let's go north. To
North,
Mr.
Miss
Miracle.
Tessmacher.
Very good. Very good, Superman. And see what Dave, Mr. Miracle Comics, the king of pre-spec, thinks about this particular issue and how the cover either does it for him or doesn't do it for him. What do you think, Dave?
What do I think? Okay, so like you're looking at this.
First.
There you go. Thank you. So you're looking at this cover. That's a pretty straightforward Teen Titans 80s cover. You know, Perez always nails it. I mean, at this time, you know, Perez, Byrne, maybe, you know, Buscema, these are the guys that like were nailing their anatomy like perfect. And that's, you know, Perez is like on that. There's not a finger out of place on any of those characters. They're all, you know, crowded in there, but all of them absolutely atomically correct and looking properly. I love, you know, so like the rendering itself, it's George Perez, right? Like he's a titan of this, like literally a titan, you know. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of it is a little weird with the Keebler Company presents DC Comics, and you've got the little, you know, cookie guy up there, the little Keebler elf, hangs out in the tree. Funny little guy. And then there's like, and this treatment at the bottom too. All proceeds from this issue will be donated to fight drug abuse. I hate it when they put stuff like that on there. What? How? What are you doing with this money? Like, are you, you know, buying DA helicopters? Are you helping out in like homeless shelters to get people off? Are you donating to AA meetings? I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, right? They're fighting drug abuse. This issue is nice in that normally when you have an issue like this, we have on the back cover an advertisement. This one, it is an advertisement in a way, since it's being sponsored by Keebler, although like we'll talk about the story. So we get no back ad, we get more cover, right? We want you to be a hero. Stay drug free. Of course, the big and glaring thing about this, one thing that, you know, you're like, wait a minute, something's not right. Who the hell is that guy? Right? And where the hell is Robin? Right? So that, you know, that's kind of a like a glaring thing. I'll talk a little bit about why Robin's not in here a little later, but yeah, and you know, Perez is never lazy. Just like this cover's got so many characters on it like that, right? Like he's known for, you know, he fills up every page, every inch of every page all the time, right? Even this is kind of a lazy sort of splash back cover for Perez, and that's like a lot of work for most artists, but that's kind of a lazy one because there's not much background. They're kind of in, you know, I don't know, Dr. Fate's kind of weird world in the white. Anyway, cover, I liked it. It does, you know, tell me that this is going to be what we're looking for. You know, George Perez, Marv Wolfman coming in with that comic book cover, which is pretty typical. Like I said, rendered well. Weird guy in purple that you have no idea who he is, but the backsplash is on there, and that bumped it up a couple points for me. And I gave the cover a 3.5.
Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. 3.5. Very respectable grade, I'd say. Very respectable.
I've seen
we'll
a
talk
lot
about
better, but
we'll talk about the Protector, you know, later on, why he's on there. Mm-hmm. There's a very good reason why he's on there.
Like, wait a minute, who's that purple guy, right?
Yeah. Well, let's make our way down the coast a little bit, just a little bit south. Still cold, but you know, but very, very, shall we say, cold only in temperature, but hot when it comes to the man, and that is nothing else than Comichead 84. What say you about this particular cover? Is it
It's warming up.
Winterized, or is this hot like summer?
Okay. If you wouldn't mind bringing up the my digital assist here. Okay. So let me get my ratio proper so we can get the whole thing in frame. That. Yeah, that more or less does it. So yeah, I mean it's Perez, baby. When you got to put a ton of characters in one frame, you hire Perez. Crisis on Infinite Earths, his Avengers run. The dude knows how to get a bunch of bodies in a panel and make all the proportions jive, and he makes it work. So the anatomy is largely on point. I think, except for one glaring. The thing that catches my eye right off the bat on this, that I think he slipped on the anatomy, man. I think there's something up with that lower half of our pal Speedy. I feel like his torso is too elongated, and maybe it was just easier for him to start his waist right below where that character's caboose ends. Like right where that character ends, he started the waist. But I feel like he started like fractions of an inch too low, and I think he has. To me, it looks like he has little legs and a long torso, and it throws me off. I think that was a miss from Perez on the lower half of Speedy, but all these guys in the background, pretty well executed in that regard. Now, as far as the overall composition of it and like the concept of it, I think it's a win, man. The Teen Titans logo, I've always dug the new Teen Titans logo. Basic, but powerful, gets to the point, no qualms there. I dig it. The scene that's set, you know, I mean, the classic Pieta pose, carrying, you know, we can insinuate because of like the anti-drug theme here. Looks like we got someone, you know, someone who fallen soldier in the war on drugs, a dead youngin' being held on the cover, very dramatic, with a grieving, mourning crew behind him, schoolmates and heroes alike. In the streets, in the city, you can see a chain link fence on the side, basketball hoop, the school out back. The tone is set that there is a dead child, probably on school property, man, with grieving people in the back. So I think it was pretty cinematic setting, honestly. I like the layout. Made me want to see what's cooking inside. So overall, well executed. I think that's an anatomy miss on the lower half of Speedy. So I do think it's pretty straightforward, no home run status. So I'm just going to give it an above average, and I'm going to land on a 3 on this cover.
Okay.
I'm on a 3.
I think you made some salient points there, Kenny. Absolutely. I also like looked at that bottom and but that's really not where the focus of the cover is. But I get you. All right. Speaking of focus, let's go to somebody who has incredible focus. He can do books. He can do interviews. He can do movies. He can do songs. He can do comic books. Apparently. Let's go and see what Mr. Genome Presents thinks about this particular cover. And I'm sure we're in to be regaled by his analysis.
Well, I tend to focus on chaos here. Let me go and kill my green screen for this.
Sure.
So it won't cut it out. So, all right, this cover. Let me start off by saying I really don't like it, okay? But that's not how I'm going to grade this cover. This cover is technically excellent, right? It's just not my thing. I don't like the white, you know, the background back here. At least give it a little bit of color. It probably would have killed the trade dress, though. Either a sky blue wouldn't do well with that Titans right there, or you know, the Keebler elf wouldn't be quite as noticeable if he wasn't on a stark white background. So I don't think that part works. And it does seem a little claustrophobic, like they're in this like alleyway pinched in. Is this a full court or a half court? It must be a half court basketball, whatever. But, it's just minor gripes. Just because it's not my thing and because of the colors palette's not really my thing, doesn't mean it's not technically great, because it is. It really is, because you get this many characters crammed into such a small space and kind of a close-up shot too, and every single one of them has their own face. Like this I don't know. He's such a master at like having minimal detail, like completely bring out characteristics. It's like right here. I mean, just like almost nothing on the face back there, but it's completely different than everybody else's. I don't know how he gets away with it, but he's got a sure hand. There's a little bit of issue with maybe a little bit too straight-legged. Like Buscema would have put some joinery in here a little more, I think. But I mean, it's just another minor technical thing. I like Protector, whatever, leaning down looks really good right there. And it is a very stark and striking cover. I almost think, though, this cover might have been better served with just Speedy and the corpse by himself. Maybe these guys way in the background, But I mean, it is what it is. You got to put them all on there, I guess. And almost all these characters are somewhere in the book, too, which is a nice touch. Also, they need to talk about Cyborg is getting a little bit touchy-feely here. I don't know about that. I guess they didn't worry about that back in 85 or so. But, yeah, it's a technical wonder, as is par for the course for him. So I do like the technical aspects of it. It's just not my kind of cover that much. But it is stark and it is striking. He's obviously either carrying an OD or a dead body out of there. So that with the drug message makes it. Sorry, I got a cat out. That's just jumping into my lap. Sorry about that. So I give it a 3. It's technically great. It's just not my kind of cover that much, but it definitely conveys a stark image. And it's George Perez. He doesn't put out a bad one. So give it a 3.
It definitely has 80s colors, man.
Oh, man.
That's the 80s Titans issue.
Yep.
It's like a bowl of Lucky Charms.
Yeah, good points. And some I was going to make myself. So yeah, good points, Gino. But I have sort of a little different spin on it, and I'll tell you that in a second. So let's go to little old me here. By the way, there are various versions of this. There's the dollar fundraiser version, and then there is the one that was included in a kit to schools. So I have both of them, obviously, because I'm a nut about these kind of comics, right? So yeah, the cover. First of all, this comic is so attached to a concept that we have to sort of talk about that up front, right? This is not like a regular comic book that you're trying to sell on a newsstand. This was never available on newsstands. This was either through a kit ordered from the government or a fundraiser through the direct market. And the reason there was a fundraiser is because it was so popular in the schools, right? And this particular cover, I think, is made this way to have impact, not to sell the comic, if that makes any difference. Genome, I agree. It's very like claustrophobic. Inner city sometimes will have, I remember some of the schools I went to will have this kind of enclosed yard so that, the kids can't really get away easily, things like that. And it does have a very, very kind of almost prison-like atmosphere here in the back, right? But of course you have the hoop and it's kids here, so it's not that. But like Genome said, look at the faces there. They all have a slight difference. Either they have a slightly different reaction, sometimes shock, sometimes horror, sadness, melancholy, etc., etc. And Perez is just a master at that. The way that he can emote the different range of emotions on even just a cover is just a brilliant talent, right? The Pieta cover here is very, to me, that's the most powerful part, right? Because you're trying to make an impact upon a certain audience so that they don't go astray. So they're not pulling punches here. You're seeing somebody here who is either dead or in severe trouble, and it's very impactful in that sense, and it does what it's supposed to do, right? I agree. You know, with Kenny, the bottom here looks a little odd, but I think that's not the focus. The focus is holding this kid here, who obviously is, you know, what we don't want you who are reading this comic to be this kid. And yeah, you're right. If it was just these two and sort of an audience in the background, I think that would have been more powerful. So that's kind of a miss. The color scheme, you're right. You want the Keebler elf here because they are the ones who paid for the printing and things like that of this comic. So, you know, a corporate partner thing. And you have, of course, the streets here, so that, you know, it's an inner city kind of concept school. This is not, you know, something out in the country or anything like that. And again, you know, yeah, the hand of Cyborg, but it's a metal hand anyways. It's got no feeling in there. So I guess they sort of let that one go. And Speedy is the one who's holding it. And that's kind of important because, as we have noted before in our graders' notes, Speedy himself was an addict in the past. So he sort of has some kind of connection here. So you know that what's going on here is pretty powerful. So yeah, claustrophobic, a little bit too much, too much claustrophobic here. The protector here is odd. I was always like, who is this guy? What is this guy doing down here? You know, so that's kind of distracting, but I guess, you know, that's not Perez's fault. It was changed afterwards. So yeah, I agree with all you guys' points. Really good points by the panel. But I think I elevated a little much because the impact to the audience of the cover is what I'm focusing on. So I'm giving it a 3.5. I think it's an effective cover. Well done, other than some nitpicking, but it gets the job done. It impacts the audience that it was meant to impact.
Yeah, it's just a total ripoff from Crisis. He just did it, right? Like,
Crisis was after this, sir.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Is that right?
This is 1983. Crisis 1985.
So he ripped this off for the
Yes.
cover.
Cover swipe from a dead kid, drug addict kind of cover. Perez.
Was it the chicken or the egg? Right?
Like,
That's the eternal question, right? Let's say hello to a couple people who've come in here since we've been at this. William Smallwood, welcome, buddy. I see you on the No Faces chat. Thank you for coming over here. Bill Comic Mag Musings, another chat superstar, is in here, as well as Gore Vidal. And let's see what Gore Vidal has to say here. Teen Titans and Legion of Superheroes, both with teen protagonists, weren't written or drawn like teens, but young adults at the time. Something that's been lost in recent incarnations. Yep, I agree. All right, so now that we're done with our babbling, it's time to kick it over to the chat and see what you think. Now, notice, if you're new, which I don't think any of you guys are, we scale it from 0 to 5 with, half increments. So 1.5 is fine, 3.5, 2.5, etc. Please, no pies or expressions or some kind of theorems, just raw numbers, because Genome, he takes this stuff to heart, so, we don't want to give him acid indigestion. So let us see what you guys think about this cover. Is it an effective cover, or is it really something really not fit for this comic book?
The old Pieta.
The old Pieta.
Yeah, I guess it did come first, eh?
Oh, and I wonder what the first, because it goes back to the Golden Age, people using that pose. I mean, it's like a Michelangelo sculpture?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, it's Mary holding Jesus after the crucifixion. Yeah,
and then as far as when it got incorporated into comics, I'd be curious what the first one is, because I know I can go back to that startling comics Golden Age where the robot. DS probably knows the issue. Is that robot carrying? But I'd be curious what the first one is.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if Perez is thinking about that per se. I think he just wants to impact that, to highlight the helplessness and the distress of the kid, here. But it is definitely a Pieta cover because we, obviously we know eventually he died, but that at that pose it doesn't have to be. It could be unconscious or whatever. So. All right, we got all kinds of different opinions on this one, it looks like, folks. All kinds. Let me just highlight a few of them because there's some interesting little comments here. Ryan thinks, I went high because even if you don't read the issue, the cover alone tells you not to do drugs.
There you go.
Good point. Good point. Very good point. Let's see. Russ was not impressed.
Wow, 1.5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bill is like serviceable.
Yeah, I can see that.
And Biggie is like, I'll take it or leave it, you know? Oh, hold on a second. Rage on some CMM. Ooh, yeah. Jackson Roy Kirk does not like when Bill starts misbehaving on chats. Our buddy and alumni Gray Man thinks it's even better than we thought, guys. We thought it was a 4.
Amen.
Interesting. And James Collecting Chaos gave this a perfecto. I can see that, but I think that when you consider the audience it was meant for, there could have been a little more impact actually. But it is effective, but it could have been more effective.
Yeah.
You can't quit checks. These two guys will go at it all night.
Yeah.
Okay, let's 30 seconds and then we're on to category 2 because we don't want to keep you all here all night. Oh, hold on. Let's see what Russ is saying here. I love Perez, but this just didn't do it for me. It's too crowded. I can see that as well. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Well, when there's a
all right, Gino.
on school grounds, everyone's going to crowd around to see what's happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with Chaos. Yeah. Yeah, this is the first one. There's actually 3 of them in a series. I have the first 2. I don't have the third one yet, but it will be in my collection eventually.
Isn't there like a Coca-Cola one with the series?
Yeah, there's a soda one and there's an IBM one, 2 and 3. And the Protector is all of those, which we'll talk about that later. Why?
Okay.
Gino, do you have a tally?
I do. The tally came in at 3.791, giving us a 4 for the chat.
Wow. Wow, they went up on us. Hey, there's our buddy and one of the best in the business, Unruly Simeon, with the peace sign.
What's going on? I was really stoked that I actually had this when you picked it as one of the choices, and then the chat picked it. I was like, I have this book.
Was like, yeah.
Somehow I had this book. I don't even remember where I got it, but I've had it for ages. You know,
I don't have to worry about ordering it, paying exorbitant shipping, and not getting here on time.
I know,
right?
Great man.
All right, guys. Good stuff. Let's change gears a little bit here. Let's go to the story element. You know, let's see. You know, okay. So we got the cover, impactful. We all think it's pretty good, but you know, not the end of the world. But what do you think about the story? Is this something that you know really had teeth, or was this you know something that was just fluff? You know, let's see who started last time, Mr. Miracle, right? All right, Genome. Let's go with you. What did you think about this story? Now, remember, this is a very different. This is not in continuity or anything like that, and it's a very different audience, perhaps, than most comics. So, I'm interested in what you think and how you graded this story because I had some trouble with it.
Yeah, this story is strange. Okay, I'll say there's an issue with this story, no pun intended. I don't know if this story knows what age demographic it's aimed for. It seems to be aimed at younger kids, right? That seems to be the ongoing thing with this, and you know the whole say no to drugs, and then throwing the Keebler elf in the cover, of course. But it's written like it was more for an adult because it's very wordy, and there's a lot going on here, even though it's a very simple story, right? So it's kind of difficult to narrow this down. Like, was it a well-written story? Maybe overall, yeah. But for a story for kids, I don't think it worked too well. I think they would need like an older sibling to read it to them, maybe, you know, because a lot of word bubbles, a lot of very chatty book. Now, it doesn't really hold as much interest for older readers because it's written towards juveniles. I don't know, man. I'm really on the fence with it. It conveys the plot well, right? It moves along, but there's not a panel without word bubbles underneath. So, I mean, it's going to take a little while to get through. So this, for like a little kid, is probably a multiple reading if they didn't have a long attention span. But getting past all that, it does a very good job of setting up the problem and then having the heroes come in, and they don't save the day right away, which is nice too. It's like there's conflict within the kids that are involved with this little drug gang they have going at school or whatever. They fall a couple times. They don't just miraculously, hey, the hero show up, so we're going to turn over a new leaf. You know, there's more tribulations, and there's actually a fairly disturbing scene at a funeral of one of the siblings of these kids where she just goes ballistic on the parents and on her dead brother and all that. So, I mean, it was kind of cool. Pretty far-fetched. I mean, they had these like 13-year-olds doing every single drug there was. In fact, I bet they called down to the police station and say, can we see one of your blotters for the evening? We want to see what these people are doing. What drugs are they doing? Oh, yeah, PCP? Yeah, check. Hash oil? Check. You know, they got everything in there. It's like a head shop, you know. I don't know. It was very serviceable and maybe a little above because there was a higher message here, let's be honest. And yeah, I gave it a 3. I don't know. I think if they were aiming for the target demographic they were supposedly aiming at, you know, the preteen, I think they could have, I hate to say dumbed it down, but they could have simplified it a little bit more, right? I don't know, just streamlined it, simplified it a little more, and it would have been, I think, a better message for young kids. But I don't think it had all the elements to really enthrall the younger reader or the older reader. So is this a preteen book or a book or a teenager book? I don't know if they'd even like it. So I gave it a 2.5 right down the middle. It sets up the problem well. It solves the problem well. There's a satisfying conclusion, and they all get to spout a little bit about each of their problems. One more thing before I get out here. Every single kid in this book had a face, like that had a problem, right? Not just artistically. They all had their own little personality, had their own little quirk. They had their little subsection of story. It was broken down very oddly, too. I'll give it that, but that didn't really bother me. 2.5, I just think it missed the mark of engrossing everybody. Or try to please everybody, and I think they should have gone for a little bit younger demographic on this. So 2.5, serviceable, but not spectacular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, we got some good comments here. Hash oil, that takes me back. I don't want to know any more details than that. Yeah. Okay. Welcome, Sleepy Reader, Damien. How you doing? Great to have you here once again. Okay, so 2.5. Okay, all right, I can see that. I think I'm going to take the next round here myself. Yeah, I had a lot of problems processing the grade for this issue, and I'll tell you why. First of all, this is a hefty read, okay? There are no ads in this comic, all right? You got a letter from Nancy Reagan, essentially because First Lady usually have projects, literacy, child abuse, and hers was drug abuse. Because at this time, 1983, I was just around high school age or just after in inner city Miami. So I can tell you the cocaine cowboys were going wild in Miami, and I was actually involved as a bystander in a shootout. But I won't get into that right now. But yeah, like Genome says, I mean, I think the message here is well done, right? You get testimonials, sort of confessions, almost like a substance, like an AA or Drugs Anonymous. So he draws this kind of panel here, but I'm not going to get into the art. But you have a confession, and each kid has a very different family situation. Some have brothers and sisters. Some have really supportive parents. Others don't. Others are single parent kids. Some are Hispanic. Some are African American. Some are Anglo. It runs the gamut. It gives you the impression that this situation is not restricted to any one family dynamic or racial or ethnic group. It is at this point a country wide problem. And I can attest to that because I had several family members that unfortunately are no longer with us because of problems like this. And then you have you also have a testimony from Speedy because one of the children says, "You can't relate to me," and he's like, "You're wrong. I can." So again, what this comic is trying to elicit a response from these kids, right? That if they see these situations and the very situations come up, sometimes the drugs are introduced by family members, sometimes by friends, sometimes it's freebies given off by the dealers, et cetera, et cetera. So it gives you a good kind of encapsulation of different ways in which you could get hooked, and it shows the horrors and the results of that. One kid died. One of them was so distraught at the funeral that they went bananas, like Genome said. And it really is a very involved story. I will give it that. But I had the same situation or problem that Genome. If this was supposed to be for 4th or 5th graders, I think it's a little. I think you're really hitting him over the head a little too hard with these situations, and perhaps it's a little bit too above their heads. But for at this point, I think that for later teens, it would be effective. And I know that some later teens were part of this program as well, but I think a 4th or 5th grader might be a little bit confused. But the use, and I'm going to get that into the concept, the use of these teen heroes was important because they could relate to the younger audience, and that's why Speedy was so critical in this issue. The dialogue is typical Wolfman. It's a little bit more advanced than perhaps you would think for this situation, but it's a pretty good story. I mean, the villain is not a person; it is a sort of a societal problem, and that is drug abuse. And he does a good job of sort of giving the different aspects of it. But like Genome said, a lot of I think Wolfman actually did go and research the different drugs with recovered addicts, things like that, and some of them are really out there, hash oil and stuff like that. There's one little problem here, and that is that when they're talking, they are just way too calm and way too they're just not quite as emotional sometimes when they're talking. It seems like they're kind of on the level. You would think if you're up there and you're doing a confessional that you would be, except for I think the Anna Juarez one, they were just kind of a little bit too calm, shall we say? But that's a nitpick. I think it does do the job that it's supposed to do. I just think that if they would have maybe done it in a little more, not the testimonials are good, but if they would have had the prose and the plot sort of been more superhero-ish, shall we say, that it would have perhaps guarded the attention of the younger audience a little bit better and had a better focus as to what it is, rather than kind of being such an amorphous villain, but that's really nitpicking. I still think it's an effective story, considering everything, and I gave it a 3. I think it's a little bit better than serviceable, especially considering the impact that this could have in your life if you're in this situation and you don't know how to get out of it. So there I stand, and look who managed to come by here. My buddy from Ohio, Silver Age Dave. Okay, date night, movie time. Good night, everybody. Well, thank you for coming by, Dave. I appreciate it. Okay, let's go to the man from Massachusetts and see what he thinks. Now, I am very interested to think what Kenny thinks about this one, because there's a lot of ways you can go on this story. So, yeah. Kenny, what say you about the plot and story of this issue?
Yeah, this was an interesting one to break down, because there's there's the vantage point of looking at it of how does it hit me today as an adult reader, and trying to put myself in the shoes of the target audience. But honestly, I don't like to do too much of that. I like to take it at value at what I'm reading, you know? And I'm always interested to see how these stories get handled. Personal topic for me, right? I've been to meetings, and I did the whole, drugs were a part of my life many moons ago. 7 years, baby. 7 years in the past. So I'm clued in, on this. And one thing so with all that, there's the preface. Overall, whenever you have an artistic endeavor, we all know with the movies that come out, you have the artists that are doing the work, and the more hands in the kitchen, the more diluted, and the quality drops. So it's bad enough when you have, movie companies and bottom dollar guys affecting a movie. But what about when you get the government and Nancy Reagan involved, and anti-drug campaigns weighing in on the creative decisions? I don't think it helps. I think we get. Can we jump to the screen share thing? There's things that I appreciate about the book. I overall think it's a miss in a lot of ways. I like this confessional aspect. I think that's just as a storytelling device. I like that. One-on-one story. It's ridiculous. You can just tell. The problem is they're so out of touch that they're not going to relate to anyone, because right off the bat, first page, I'm Debbie and I'm 13 years old. I've taken alcohol, pot, hash, PCP, mushrooms. No, there's no 13-year-old. I don't care if your parents were rock stars at Woodstock, or if you grew up in the most dangerous ghetto there's no 13-year-old that has PCP, mushrooms, alcohol, pot under their belt. So they're creating these caricature kids, simplicity is key. The more simple something is, the more honest something is generally. And there's a stark difference between this book and, one that we reviewed in the past with Neil Adams and Denny when they told the Speedy story. It's something I like about this book, that Speedy is in the mix and he can talk as someone who's been there, done that. I thought that was good. But you can see such a stark difference between when it's part of a government program and they're trying to get this catch-all of, what if the girl just said, hey, I had a problem with, pick one, PCP. I bet you the boardroom was like, well, make sure we mention mushrooms, because if we don't mention mushrooms, the kid might think mushrooms okay. Make sure you mention every single one so they know. And that was probably some whiteboard decision, which affected the creative process. A simple drug abuse is drug abuse. So the story of Speedy's battle with heroin, telling that in an effective way, that covers all the bases. You're getting at the root of drug abuse. It doesn't matter which one it is. And I think that really made the story really clunky, making these kids each one did a baker's dozen of drugs by the time they were 12 or 13. So it made it silly. There's also some funny parts where Starfire gets angry when the kid dies, and she flies off in a rage, and it's this page right here. I'm gonna get the guys who did this. That's the laboratory where they make the drugs, and she blows up she goes, you're never gonna kill another child again, and explodes a factory in the middle of a city. You probably killed more kids in that reckless move than the drugs did. But also, what laboratory is it? It's so out of touch. There's not a cocaine laboratory in the middle of the city. So it's just clunky stuff like that. So I thought it was kind of a joke, but there's moments where I think they got close to I really liked the Speedy confessional scene. I thought, I was okay, good. I was wondering how much they were going to tie that in, and they did. So if you were a reader of DC Comics, you would appreciate that. So I don't want to go too at length. I'll cover maybe some more of this aspect in the concept, but overall, you know, I really like the confessional part. I really got a kick out of that. But a lot of it is just out of touch. The dialogue's clunky. You can just tell it's a government-sponsored thing. And, you know, I gave it a 2.
All right. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I guarantee you that you could tell that Wolfman didn't do it exactly the way he wanted to.
Yeah. Right.
And that's because not only government, but you also have a corporate sponsor who
Good point,
probably doesn't want. And when we get into the art, you'll notice Starfire's costume is a little different. We'll get into that later.
Yeah.
Wolfman would have had Debbie there turning tricks or something too. Something,
Yeah, right. But before we do that, let's bring it home with Mr. Miracle, and I'm very curious to see what he thinks about this story. Right, Mr. Miracle? Let us have it.
Oh man, this story. No, like I agree with Kenny right on it. It was like 13-year-old with all these drugs on the belt. Now I found that a little far-fetched, especially she's like, I started 3 years ago. So you started all that when you're 10. I don't know how many 10-year-olds have enough cash to develop a coke problem, right? That seems like a lot of lawn mowing to me. To be, you know, getting your drugs, or I guess you're stealing stuff or whatever. There's a lot of misinformation in here, like all the drugs that Kenny was listing on there. None of those are addictive, none, right? Like, most of the stuff these guys talk about, hash oil, like Dilaudid. Whoa, go back. What? Like that takes a big escalation. If you don't know what Dilaudid is, it's kind of like morphine. And I think it's only like IV user friendly. Like you can only do it that. I think I've never touched the stuff. Obviously, that's not my bag. Cocaine and downers and quaaludes. What the hell is a quaalude? I hear about like in old movies and stuff. I've never seen one. I don't know what it does. I suppose it was popular in 1983 still, or maybe that was just one of the drugs that Marv actually knew the name of, like Quaalude. It's a dumb, like the characters smoke a joint and then lose their minds. Like, and I mean, like I don't do drugs. I'm not a pot smoker. It's not illegal here, and I don't disagree with that. Like I thought it was always stupid to be illegal, and I know a lot of people that do smoke pot, and they certainly don't lose their mind if they smoke a joint, right, and start yelling at everybody and everything. So there's a lot of misinformation in here, a lot of scare tactics. I guess that's a way to put it. You put those, like if you even look at marijuana, you will immediately become a cocaine addict and start doing heroin and hate your parents and pretty much die soon, right? I mean, I don't know how much marijuana it takes to overdose. I do have some friends that I'm certain have given it a good shot trying and have not succeeded, right? And you know, whatever. Like I said, it's not for me. I don't get the whole I got to be high all the time every day sort of mentality. It seems kind of a weird sort of state to be in all the time for me. But I have tried it when I was in high school and whatnot. Like everybody had instances. And I did a lot of volunteer work when I lived in Vancouver with like lower East End communities and drug addicted people, and even like most cracked out cracky. They're kind of dangerous because they're desperate, but they're not out of control in the way that this comic book sort of portrays that if you touch drugs, you're going to lose your mind. Like I said, it's not even like lots of drugs aren't even illegal here in Canada. You can just go to the store and buy that stuff. I suppose a lot of the states now too, they've, you know, put that sort of thing on there for certain drugs. If you ever like went to Vancouver, like Roger, I know you were talking about Miami and their cocaine problem, but Vancouver has probably the worst heroin problem of any city in the world. It's like unbelievable what's happening in that city in the weirdest way. And you watch literally hundreds of people die from overdoses in a year, and none of them were 13-year-olds. None of them were worried about getting off or on or whatever pot. or mushrooms. They weren't even interested in that. Like, why do the kids in here have to do all the drugs, right? Like, why can't all the addicts that I've ever met, they pick one, like they're a meth head or a crackhead or a heroin addict or, whatever. They don't, or they, pothead. They don't do them all the time, every day. So I don't know, maybe that's a 13-year-old's view of the drugs. You're on the dopes, as my mom would say. And, did it get an effective message across? I don't think I like the fact that they didn't dumb it down, even though it's supposed to be for young people. I don't think as adults we give young people enough credit to what they comprehend, right? And I don't really think that this is beyond a 10-year-old's comprehension of what's going on here. I think it kind of speaks to scaring a 10-year-old into making sure he never touches drugs or whatever. I don't know. I never had to scare my daughter into not doing drugs. I guess she was just scared that, I'd whip her ass if I ever found out. But not that I ever said so. It was just sort of implied, right? She wasn't the type of kid to do that kind of thing. I don't know. The story's weird. And where's Robin? Damn Robin. Like, I know where Robin is, but it just seems weird. Like, and all of you guys have already mentioned, like, the key point that I liked was, where they're talking about it, where they kind of get that little, hi, my name is what's his name, and then putting in that same panel with Speedy was brilliant, right? So that Speedy kind of joins into that whole kids, I can recollect and empathize with you guys because I've been there kind of deal, right? And I got off drugs. You can too, kids. You can too. Get off the dopes. Damn it. Anyway, for a regular comic book issue, I give this story a 1.5. For a PSA, yeah, I'd still give it a 1.5. There's too much misinformation and too much weirdness going on in here, right? Like, if they had really focused on, be careful what you're doing, kids, this, like, and given a real path, just not like, we list everything, I'm on 9-volt batteries and cocaine and toad licking and, everything that anybody ever stuff. I heard that, you can smoke your skateboard and get high. I did that too. Anyway, 1.5. I found it a little heavy-handed and weird, and it just not in the right direction.
Yeah,
it is a
little heavy-handed. Yeah, I agree with that.
I get it has to be heavy-handed, the subject matter and the death and everything like that, right? There's certainly no comic code approval authority on this guy at all.
No, because it's drugs. Yeah.
Because it's drugs. You're not allowed to mention drugs, even if it's to mention no, don't do drugs. You can't say don't do drugs. Nope. What? Just don't mention.
That's why the government was involved. Yeah.
See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Yeah. That's where, right?
Hey, look who's here. Our buddy Travis. How you doing there, Mr. Beulah?
Anyways, 1.5 for the story. I thought it's not even campy enough. Like, if you read a PSA issue, they're campy. Like that Batman one I sent you, it's campy as hell when you read that one. And this is not campy. And it's misinformation and heavy-handed, and I think they went the wrong direction. Maybe kids liked it at the time in 1983. I was in Canada. This didn't come into my school. But I certainly would have probably read it as a 13-year-old and been like, oh, drugs, right. And I watched LA Law or whatever the fuck. I know what drugs are.
Yeah, I think in the concept we're going to get to a little bit more detail about a few things that you mentioned, but yeah, I think Kenny hit it that when they put all these array of drugs. Now there are some kids that escalate. I knew some in high school. That escalated their drugs. They're like, oh well, you're doing PCP. By the way, Quaalude is a barbiturate, and when I was in high school, I got offered many times. I never took them, of course, but
never even seen a Quaalude.
Yeah, and good thing you don't. Hey, Mike, how you doing? Good to see you here. Great to see you here, Travis. How you doing, buddy? So let's, I'm not going to get into too much detail because we could talk about this until the cows come home, right? But let's kick it over to the chat. Maybe you didn't read this issue. That's okay. You can
That is
base your
definitely
opinion on what you hear here. That's fine. And if you did, all the better, right? So did you think that this was heavy-handed, that this was either above their heads, or it was just, a misinformation city, regardless of the impact that it had, or was it an effective story in and of itself? That's up to you to decide. I gave it a 3. Kenny gave it a 2. 2. Genome a 2. We're all over the place here.
Yeah.
So it just depends on how you look at this particular situation. I tend to look at it that, if it was a regular comic, it's pretty much a mess, But considering the audience and what they wanted to accomplish, I think it was pretty good.
One thing that would be I'm fascinated to think of I wonder what the writing process was for Marv Wolfman. I wonder if it was like a meeting where people chimed in during the process, or if he received like outlines and bullet points from these sponsors and government, factions. I wonder what that process was like for Marv Wolfman to write this.
Kind of says in Reagan's letter here that it was put together as part of the drug awareness materials.
Right.
As a part of the drug campaign. So that probably meant like, I don't know, whichever, person or secretary or whatever would have been assisting her with this, probably had a lot of input in like, make sure you mention this, and this is for kids. So talk about drugs, but make sure you don't show any boobs, right?
Like Marv's a creative guy, obviously, and a good writer. So like, I wonder, did he submit his first draft? Did he get notes back that he had to change this or that? I'd just be curious, like the nitty gritty of how that went down would be fun.
I'm sure, like you said, Kenny, there were a lot of cooks with their hand in the pot here.
Yeah.
And maybe Marv was like, hey, maybe we can just have this guy do hash and hash oil. This guy can do PCP and Quaaludes. And they're like, no, we gotta put everything, because you never know what they're doing.
If he came up with the testimonial concept, hats off to him, because I thought that was one of the highlights of reading this. It breaks up because there is a lot going on, a lot of text. So it's like a nice breakup between the story. It's visually appealing. And then when they hit Speedy, like I was not like emotionally invested in the story, but when I guess I should have saw it coming, but I didn't. When Speedy was doing the confessional, I was like, oh, so good. I actually really liked that part.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was the real brilliance of the story.
Yeah,
is that he can relate to these kids, not just the kids in the comic, but the kids reading it, right? Because he himself had drug issues, and he overcame it. So he's and who doesn't? And remember, kids here. This is concept stuff, but heroes. When I was a kid, that's who I wanted to be, who I looked up to.
Yeah, He has a funny line in it where when he's talking about how, hey, I did drugs, one kid goes, wow, what did you do? He goes, kid, the things that I did would make you sick.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
I was at the bus station.
Yeah, I know.
Off in the bathroom.
Like, wait.
Oh, wait a minute. What happened? What issue was that, Speedy?
Hey, Funk, how you doing, buddy?
That was an epic comic release, by the way.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a heavy metal continuation.
One thing I thought was kind of funny is
Bueller, you're too much, man.
For kids who are doing PCP, these kids look very healthy and clean and in pretty good shape. That was one issue I had.
Yeah. No, there is one panel when we get to the art where he does a good job of showing the girl in the bed. But yeah, they look. That's what my point is. They're way too calm and way too suburban looking. They should have been like,
How about when they're flying over the beach and Beast Boy's like, look at these bum druggies on the beach. They're not doing it. He's like, I think they're just hanging out. Like, relax.
That was Miami right there. That brought me back.
Unless you're
Genome,
up dancing
what's
around.
the score, buddy?
You're
okay, give me 1 second.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, you got it in junior high school. Okay, all right. That seems like the level that I think would be effective here. Yeah.
All right. Chat coming with a very wise score of 2.5.
Okay.
Serviceable.
Serviceable down the middle. down the middle.
I don't know. I just felt like I didn't know. Like, well, you're probably right. There was probably 100 people like involved in the development of this book. Between corporate sponsorship and federal agents. The federales probably came in there and had a couple words to say, maybe a word or two from the undersecretary of the DEA or something, and then of course the people on the board at DC, whatever. And it's just a lot of cooks in there. I just don't feel like the story knew it wanted to be. Other than just a straight PSA. But
agreed. Yeah, I don't think with this, and we're talking about very diverse, type of, we have a governmental interest, we have a corporate interest, and we have a publisher interest, and it's got to be watered down so that all three agree. So
he definitely had
Jay,
a reefer.
That was me too. I never did drugs because that would take away from my comic book money. So I had priorities, man. I had priorities. Comics.
Yeah, it definitely had a reefer madness feel to it a little bit,
Yeah. Oh boy. Now we're talking. Yeah, that's way over the top though. But yeah. All right. Reefer Madness. Oh boy. Of course, Gino would bring that reference up. If you haven't seen that movie, it is a must see.
Over the top. Yeah.
Outrageous.
It is. Go see it. I mean, if you're an adult, go see it. All right. So let's get into the art, guys. What do you think? This is going to be interesting as well, because I want to see what you guys think here about this. Kenny, you haven't gone first yet, right?
I haven't. No.
All right. Well, guess what? Now you have.
Okay. Okay. And now I shall. So let me get my my digital version here. Do you have that up here?
Oh yeah.
If you could. Okay. Perez, baby. Love the. I was mentioning that I love the confessional pages as a story element. I love it even more as a visual element. Perez is the man, dude. Especially in every one of these pages has the same template, and in the top right, he always has the circle outline in a close up of their face, and each one is masterful. They well detailed. They look awesome. They show like sincere expression. The design is cool. It's like jarring with the white. These pages, and there's a bunch of them, so I won't spend time on as much on the next ones. But all these pages, the same critique applies, or praise applies, of like awesome layout. The faces on the top right of all of them are wonderfully done. Home run on that. You get into the meat of the book. Like, look, you can tie the writer's hands all you want, brother, with the jargon that they have to say, but Perez is gonna do what Perez do, baby. No matter what the concept is. Look at that fantastic splash page, right on page 1. You're still getting Perez is fantastic at paneling out pages, no matter what's going on. And there's a lot of moving parts and characters. You never get the feeling that it's cluttered or hard to follow. He's good at breaking up panels. He doesn't give you the standard, 8 or 6 grid. He's always does unique things, but does it in a way that is interesting and is not distracting. Now, the Protector, okay? These guys have been alluding to it. Protector is this character that they last minute made for this book. My understanding is not only he's a replacement for Robin, but I also think that Robin was actually drawn into these pages. And then they had to, in that design for the Protector, the reason he's got this, big purple mask over his face is they just drew that over an existing image of Robin. And the mask always looks like the way it shapes around his face is always off. It always looks clunky. Like the Protector always looks jacked in all of his panels. And that's why. I'm not going to put that on Perez. It looks goofy. They should have figured out Robin couldn't be in it before. You should have sorted that out with Nabisco beforehand, brother. As we move through, still, the reckless page of when Starfire blows up the city is wonderfully drawn. That top panel of her zooming across with this city line in the background looks great. The emotion in her face looks great. Like, the art is no joke in this issue. Like, I feel like Perez really, brought his A game. I don't have a ton of critique here. I think Speedy looks badass in most panels. I think he looks great. What's her name? Raven? The shadow effect on her face always looks really cool. There's Protector again, looking jacked. That's really too bad. But like scenes like this when they fly over the beach bums, the great long shot. He did that a lot in Crisis too. Like these long vertical panels on the left side of the page establishes setting without taking up a bunch of real estate on the page. He does it vertically, and you really get the sense of big scale. But he's tricking. It's a slick trick that he's only using a thin measure of real estate on the page. That's how Perez does his thing, man. So anyway, the rest of the book is I think most of that feedback kind of applies to the rest of the book. Here's a great, again, I think the face is top notch there. My favorite panel of the book is right here. This page right there. Wonder Girl leaping, looking bodacious, looking awesome. Speedy in the back looking badass with the arrow, and Beast Boy swooping in as like an eagle. I love that panel. For some reason that caught my eye when I first went through. I was like, damn, that's cool. So I'm really, aside from the Protector stuff, like Perez did his thing. I really enjoyed it. I almost want to give it a 4 or 5. I'm just gonna go with my gut, man. I loved it. 4.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Very high praise, sir. Very high praise indeed.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Maybe I got caught up in the moment, but 4 or 5. Let's do it.
He's a man swayed by his passions.
Kenny
coming out with the Grand Slam Plus.
If you guys only knew how many times in the moment my grade either goes up and down, different from what I wrote down. Like I convince myself one way or the other sometimes.
Sure. Oh boy. Well, let's see. That's strong, Kenny. That's strong stuff. Let's see what Mr. Miracle there. Are you drawing something there, Mr. Miracle?
I am.
Ooh, who could
okay,
it be?
well, don't show us yet because we know that you always do some great stuff here, and the audience always sticks around to see what the end product is. But I want to know, if you can put down that pencil, what you think about the interior art of this issue. Is it, like Kenny said, a Grand Slam Plus? Or, is it just, Perez taking a day off?
Well, Perez never takes a day off. That man is not like, he is a workhorse. He puts a lot of effort into everything he's doing here. But busy book, man. Like every page, there's 7. I counted 3 pages that have 10 panels on one page. So that's kind of indicative of the dialogue. I mean, I think he's having to do a lot of these split just to get enough word bubbles in there. You know what I mean? With all of the stuff that they're talking about here. That's kind of the way PSA comics go, right? They're trying to teach a lesson, so they got lots to say all the time. But man, it's just like split. Like, look how many panels in that little section there. This took a while to read. There's no ads, right? And very glaringly to me, there's no real splash page, right? Like that panel that Kenny was talking about here is the closest we get to a splash. I guess this is the closest we get to a splash on the back cover. So panel after panel after panel, trying to get dialogue in here, trying to get lots of stuff going on. Some sort of defect in my comic. Anyway, this little kid here, this guy, he looks like he's, I don't know, 8, except that he's telling everybody that he's the oldest of the bunch. He's 15. So I didn't like that. I thought Perez kind of missed on his look because he looked like me when I was 8. That's for sure. I did. Yeah, there's lots of like fun little puzzly stuff at the back that you can do. I really should have went and like copied this and done something with that. With this, fill in your own word bubble. We're going to take Peter's knapsack and throw it up in a tree. You want to come? Sure thing, man. Peter's a chump. Let's do it. Right? Like, what are you going to write in there? I'm sure there's a ton of that kind of stuff in these things. Oh, here's the declaration that you won't do drugs. Better write yourself down on a little promissory note. I promise I won't do drugs, Mom. Man, I grew up in a little tiny town. There was no drugs. I mean, I guess we could have stole some from my friend's brother, but we weren't interested. But yeah, lots and lots of really great panels. I mean, everyone that he does do, he kills it, right? Even like this little just treatment there of the funeral, right? Like just the sort of silhouette of that funeral. Everybody there. That's enough for Perez to like just do it in this little thin strip there. It's only about a half an inch wide. All the little, off in the Etherverse, Perez is quite known for putting in backgrounds and everything, right? He's not lazy. He'll fill it in, even if it's just like a quick building or a cloud or some smoke or something. So when you see him kind of in our plain background stuff, it's obviously he's trying to push the character forward and focus on the dialogue rather than on the art, right? Which is good. Anatomy's good. Perez has got lots of stuff going on for him. I mean, he was kicking ass at this time. He was really coming into his own. And Teen Titans was extremely popular, which is, I'm sure, one of the reasons that they picked the Teen Titans, not only because they're younger, more relatable characters for kids, but that they're also extremely popular at the time, right? Teen Titans was quite a well-selling book for DC in the early 80s. This panel, Starfire, rushing away. That's good. Like it. I mean, but everything you look at, if you go into George Perez's stuff, you're gonna have a hard time finding an issue that's like, this sucks, right? This because, I mean, you probably have to go way back in his career, way before this, to find something like that. Like I said, no splash page. Really, really busy. But again, I think they had to make it busy in order to get all that wordy word bubble stuff in there. So much story was happening, right? Especially with no ads. Yeah. So the interior art, I gave it a 3. Right? It wasn't. It's still George Perez. It's still good. He's still got lots of good stuff going on. I really wanted to see a nice splash page of him and somehow, maybe Starfire really like whamming it to a drug dealer or something like that, right? Like, I don't know. Anyway, 3 for me. That's on the interior art. Not Perez's best, not his worst by any stretch, but I definitely would have liked to seen like a big splash page of some kind, for any reason. Anyway, that's just
okay. That's fair. That's fair, I guess. I think it's a little harsh, but
Oh.
Just because he shares my last name, so I'm a little sensitive.
Oh, right.
About that.
He's your cousin.
Yeah. But, all right, I'm going to take this next. Okay, so I will agree that this is not Perez's best, but I don't think it's Perez's fault, and I'll get into that in a minute. And Kenny's right. The Protector, this guy, is actually Robin, but what happened is that the Batman characters were licensed to Nabisco, and this is Keebler, their rival. So apparently when Perez and Wolfman submitted the story, they didn't know that. So they totally redrew the Protector. And that's the part that I'm kind of like, because he does look a little bit odd. Definitely not Perez-like at all in certain parts. The way, like right here, that expression, it's just a little odd. The costume, I think, is not a good design either. It's very kind of generic man kind of look, and you can tell that somebody drew this that was not Perez. It just doesn't have those stark lines and that that nice fine detail that that Perez would give. Like when you look at the lady's face there next, you can really see that there is just no comparison. Notice how bright and how sparkly, the eyes are, and his are like kind of muted. It just doesn't work. And I noticed that also Giordano did a lot of the faces, because I noticed that some of them are not Perez faces. I'll get to that in a minute. But honestly, as far as storytelling art, this is brilliant stuff. The way that the except for the age issues, yeah, some of the kids are drawn much younger than what they're supposed to be. I don't know if that was changed. Again, so many hands in the pots here, right? But look at the face here of this girl. Notice the really dark eyes. Like you can tell that she's just not gotten much sleep and is exhausted and is just disheveled, and who knows how long it's been since she's had a decent meal. So that kind of detail is more Perez-like. And honestly, a very effective storytelling element is what the testimonials or the confessions that we talked about. Kenny went over that before, and I agree. When I had relatives going to Alcoholics Anonymous, it was kind of like that. They're out there so that they can sort of cope with who they are and not try to be in denial of it. And I think that was an effective type of art. Here we see this Hispanic family. Notice the shade of is a little bit more. Actually, it looks more like Indian, I guess. But Hispanics are all different kinds of shades. I mean, but just to differentiate them, I think it's a little bit too much there of a shade. But we're talking about 1980s here, where things weren't quite as PC as they are now. But overall, I honestly, like Kenny, I don't have any problems with the storytelling element of the art, right? I don't like the design or the way that the protector is drawn. I don't like necessarily how Giordano kind of took over a lot of the faces. And now I can't find the panel I was thinking about, but I do agree with Kenny. That is my favorite as well. That's something that belongs on one of like those DC cards, a great action scene right there where they were staking out and now attacking those drug dealers. And also one thing I'll mention, and I'll stop with this, is Starfire. Notice her costume is not quite as revealing as in the regular comics. And again, that was probably the government or Keebler stepping in and says, that bare midriff look and that plunging neckline is not the kind of image that we want associated with our company or our government. So please make her a little more presentable. It's neither here nor there. It's just sort of an informational kind of thing. But overall, I think it's an effective art piece. Again, the inking, I think here and there, it took over a little bit too much, and I do not like that protector design. But again, you have to understand the situation. They had to be like erased and redrawn by somebody. It wasn't Perez, that's for sure. It wasn't Giordano either. I don't know who it was. 4. I stand on 4. It could have been much better, but it's still Perez, and he's, even with the limitations, it's still way heads and shoulders above most comics of the time. And that is my 2 cents, sir.
Well said.
All righty. Genome, you're bringing up the rear, but that's only because we sort of switch it around. It's not what we think of you or anything like that. Let us know what you, right? You're the last one, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the last one. Okay. All right. Let us know what you think. I know, Perez, I know you're a fan as well, but I know that you can be a little bit, you don't take any prisoners. So let us know what you think about this particular art feat or art.
No, I'll call him as I sees him. So whether I don't care who it is, whoever the artist is. And let me start out first off, this comic book and Teen Titans in particular, it looks like the floor of Bourbon Street after Mardi Gras. It's too many colors, man. It's like a bag of Skittles that got thrown into like some vomit or something. Just can't stand that. But other than that, there's very few things wrong with this book. It's an amazing artistic journey that Mr. Perez takes us on. And it's all about little details. A couple things that really stood out to me. It's usually kind of innocuous panels. You know, I like minutia. Like he gave it like the tail of his tie is slightly sticking out from the main part of his tie. That's a detail that was not necessary, right? But he did it anyway. That's the kind of artist that George is. And there are so many great like panels. There's, like Dave said, it's really busy, and that kind of dings it for me. But these little vignettes here are absolutely brilliant, man. I can't get over how good they are, especially these portraits. And every one of them breaks the border too in some way, either by a necklace or hair or something. It was funny because Mr. Perez even gave us the reader. He gave us the comic book reader right here. That's us. So, well, you have to imagine with a shirt on, but you know, short, dumpy, glasses and all that, little mini froze. But yeah, so. But those little vignettes are just beautiful. And then as they're telling their little background stories, they're just so good, man. I didn't care about the story. I just thought those pictures were amazing. And yeah, I mean, there's not much else I can say that other people haven't said, but I'll point out a few more things. One thing that does irk me, and I'm going to ding him for it, is I don't know what's going on with the Barbie legs and Ken doll legs. Every one of them is ramrod straight, no kneecap whatsoever. I don't know why they're drawn so stiff like that. You stand like that for more than 20 seconds, you pass out, by the way. We learned that in the military. You'll fall out of formations if you stand like that for long. But yeah, so there's a few little things like that that kind of irk me. But that's really the biggest problem with this book. The busyness of it. And I don't know why he did the legs like that in those still shots. I'm not crazy about the color palette, but that's not George's fault. You can't dig him for that. It's just how they're designed. But you know, Protector looks goofy, but I've seen worse. Take that star off his belt, he might look decent. Looks kind of like what was it, Vance Astro or whatever. But yeah, like a lot of people point out this panel too, which is great. It's more like an albatross, crossed with a pigeon, whatever kind of bird that is. But great little mini splash right there, and I'm just indicative of the book. There's a lot of quality in here, a lot of backgrounds where some aren't even needed, and it's just George Perez, man. He can't draw a bad comic, I don't think. So I was leaning toward 4-5, but honestly, this is more of a 4 book. I've seen better from him, but and I always love this panel. This might be my favorite in the entire book. Where she goes, when she's just flying straight out in this long, thin one. That long, thin panel really like accentuates what she's doing there, and I just dig it. A little move in the background, or cheese puff, whatever that thing is. But good book. I get a 4. I'm not going to give him any mercy on those straight legs of his. Every single one of them, even the very first one. Bend at the legs, something. That's something to me. But yeah, great faces. It doesn't take any panels off, and it's a lot of variety in there. It's not your typical action-packed extravaganza for a comic book. You know, they're fighting low-level hoods, so you don't expect to see a bunch of energy blasts and stuff flying around. But it did. It worked, and like I said, he can't draw a bad comic. He's definitely the best choice that DC could have used, I think, for this book. So good stuff. So I give it a 4.
Yeah, nice, man, nice. Yeah, kneecaps, huh? Kneecaps. Okay, all right. Yeah, I didn't notice it, but yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, the panel layouts. You know, Perez is always. That's when I say storytelling art, that's his brilliance, because it's not just the usual 6 panels. It's like you said, when she's flying up, when it's a vertical panel, it's for a purpose. It's not because I want to make a long thin panel. You know, that's the storytelling genius of George Perez right there.
Yeah, and like Miracle pointed out, that cemetery scene, or that funeral scene. Like a small strip of the page, and he conveyed a bunch. I don't have it pulled up, but
okay.
I remember, I can probably find it, but I remember Miracle mentioned it, and I'm like, yeah, it's what he can do in such little real estate on the page. He's really good at that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's a total horizontal line there.
Yeah, this page.
Let me find it just so that
Yeah,
because
and
this
I
will
have it on
bother
the-
me if we.
I have it on the digital screen now.
Oh, you did?
You
Okay.
got it?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that little strip there,
I
right?
found
Yeah.
it just then. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're not paying attention, you could just go right by that and say, "Oh, well, that was
Yeah.
But look at the detail in that. I mean, amazing stuff. All right, guys, let's kick it over to the chat. Now you saw the art in here. Perez. You can opine here on this particular section about what you think. Now remember, this was made for. I don't know if they got paid the regular rate or whatever, but this is much bigger than a regular comic. This is like a comic and a half, essentially, because there are no ad pages, and in fact, they're the kind of puzzle pages which Mr. Miracle talked about. Some of those have art in them as well, so you had to do that also. I think Giordano did most of it, based on what I can see, but still, in all, it's a heavy lift for an artist here. So let us know what you think about this while we talk about this some more.
I hope they got paid extra, to shill for the man.
It's probably part of their plea agreement. You know how the
I'm
drugs
sure
were
they
back
got
then.
some of those, fat government money.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
They probably didn't get the same sort of pushback on pay and scale that they would normally get. They probably got a fat check out of this thing. Yeah, man. Normally we pay our comic artists $50,000 an issue.
It was honestly probably taxpayer dollars probably paid for this book.
Yeah, totally, man.
Well, that and also from the fundraising aspect, that's what I'm thinking, right? That later on, when this was sold, they probably split the proceeds, because
That
this
was
is
the
supposed to be
fundraising?
fundraising for drug education, but they also had to pay the residuals, I'm assuming. So, I mean, a buck for 1983 for a comic was,
Yeah.
that was a bit on the pricey side,
There's no ads in there.
Yeah, right. Let's be honest. The fundraising bought Ronnie a new Lincoln.
Oh, Kenny, don't start with those conspiracies now. Oh, boy. All right. So let's give him another 30 seconds, and then we'll wrap this up with the concept.
Sometimes I forget how good Perez was, because I got to be honest, a lot of the stuff I read, growing up, it wasn't Perez. I didn't read Avengers, Teen Titans, and I came very late to Crisis on Infinite Earth. So he's always a guy that, for most of my, comic reading, he was always off my radar. But I've really grown to appreciate his stuff in the past few years.
He did it.
Jay killed me. I just started doing it. Now I got to start over. Give me 1 second.
He did focus on a lot of adult stuff, like Teen Titans, and Avengers was less for kids. You know what I mean? It was, but I mean, especially Teen Titans with all the demons and all that crazy stuff that was going on in there. It was not for kids.
Yeah, I agree. 28 pages. Jay Hood says that's, considering a regular comic was 32 and about a third of it, I think, is ads. So what is that? 22 pages. So again, quite a few, like a third more than usual.
Yeah, you get a lot of comic for your buck, but look at the comic you get, though, with telling you not to do drugs.
Yeah. Well, but again, this must have been effective to some degree, because 2 others came after it, and that same Protector guy. Gray made a good point here that he was in. He did show up in Crisis, and he talked about his participation with the Titans.
It was a bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke. I remember getting
because again, Perez and Wolfman worked on that as well, so they shoehorned him in there.
So now they're making fun of their own charity issue.
I guess you could say that. maybe you can say homaging or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And I don't care. Take the cape and that star off him. The protector doesn't look too bad.
Yeah,
I've seen worse.
To me, he looks like some kind of low-grade wrestler.
Yeah, almost lucha, right?
Yeah, like lucha, Mexican league stuff.
You know what makes him?
I'm not crazy about it. I'm not crazy about it.
He does look really generic because that color scheme, like, totally does not agree. Like purple, what is it? Purple, orange, and baby blue.
I read a little thing that he was supposed to, all that purple was supposed to be black.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
that would have made him look a lot better.
I think the government again, they didn't want the black because that it sort of portends villain, So
good guys wear black.
Listen, I wasn't part of this commission. You know what I mean? I'm just relating the possibilities. All right. So it was Heroes in Crisis, not Crisis on Infinite Earth. Heroes in Crisis.
Heroes in Crisis.
I knew I read it somewhere.
Yeah, I was thinking. I never saw this guy.
Yeah.
But
hey, Pure Ghost, how you doing? Silver Surfer 1 9.0 sold for eBay for $8K. Whoa, that's worth more than my car. All right, Gino, what's the verdict, buddy?
4. Chat came in with a 4. Another wise grade from the chat.
Well, yes, I'm feeling pretty good about my grade now. All right. Let's polish this off, guys. Concept.
The concept.
I'm gonna just leave it here. Okay. This is really interesting to me. The concept of this comic is when we came up with, or Gino, with the concept category. You can look at it many different ways, but in this one, I think you have to look at it in one specific way, and that is that there was a problem in the United States, at least, and certainly I knew there was a problem because I lived it, right? I myself never took drugs, not a one, right? Because I knew I didn't need this to tell me, I had relatives who were going through terrible times. And one of them is no longer with us, unfortunately. So I know what, delirium tremens and, throwing up and, finding people in the downtown in the middle of the night, things like that, and what horror that puts upon them and their family. And again, I was once, riding down the car and it was a shootout, and my car got hit with a bullet and the whole bit, So I know the horrors and the greed and the evil that this particular type of substance can cause in a family and an individual. So to me, I think the concept here is high level because you're using a medium to get to your audience before it's too late, right? And if you get to them, when they're in elementary, junior high, and you educate them, then perhaps later on they won't fall into the trappings. Now, it's true what Mr. Miracle says. A lot of this here is hyperbole, right? There's a lot in there that's it's very extreme situations, which a very minute part of the population would actually go through. But I think the thrust of the concept is that this is something, no matter what it is, if it's one or if it's a whole bunch of them, if you're underage and you're offered this or you see this, it is something that is not positive for your life in any way, shape, or form. And in that sense, I applaud the concept because it merges what is attractive to that audience with what is dangerous for that audience. And yeah, it was watered down. It was, there's all kinds of who knows how much compromise based upon the company who sponsored it and paid for it, parts of it versus the government had their hand in it. And of course, DC is just sort of the medium that brought it all together. But this was the start of what I would say the big launch of PSAs. And later on, we got stuff for asthma and child abuse and car seat safety, all kinds of things that they found that this was effective in reaching the audience that was most at risk from whatever danger or whatever risk we're talking about. So to me, the concept here is way beyond what we're saying usually about making money or trying to expand a universe or anything like that, because it's talking about, you know, the one of the most precious commodities we have, and that is our children. And as a parent myself, you know, there's nothing that stresses me more than anything that happens to my children. So certainly this is something it's near and dear to my heart because of the experience that I had as a kid and because of what I know and, you know, the love that I have for this particular, you know, this particular group, you know, shall we say. And I think it was a brilliant concept. The execution, you know, again, we're picky-uning here. It was not specific, you know, to the way it should, but I think the heart is in the right place. And I gave this a concept a 4.5, not a 5, because again, it's a little bit not narrowly tailored enough to the audience. I think that it's trying to please too many, and in that sense, it might lose a few. But I think that overall, though, the concept was, even though just not quite executed well enough, I think it was something that opened the doors to a whole different way of reaching an audience and helping them to not fall into the pitfalls that you would, you know, otherwise without advice like this. So 4.5 after all that blah, 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 blah. All right, Mr. Miracle. What say you, sir?
Always helps when I take it off mute. Always helps. Anyway, concept of this book. I mean, the concept of this book, you know, kids don't do drugs. That's a good concept. I'm gonna get behind that, right? Like, but the way they present it, and like, let's just throw every drug at every kid and tell them that, like, you can't even touch a drug, and like, let's list everything, and every kid will have this, and some kids are dying from PCP, which I think is really hard, and like, it's just weird. And so the concept of, like, let's put out a comic book, that's good, right? Because kids like comic books. Kids read comic books. You give a kid a free comic book, they're going to read the comic book. They're going to take it home at least. Someone's going to read it. But you got to not lie to the kids. You got to have good facts. You got to present it in a better way. So too many cooks inside the story of this one, as we've said a few times, you know, I'm sure they had very specific guidelines that they had to hit. I like the concept of doing PSA books. I don't like PSA books because the stories suck, and they always talk down to readers, and they always put into the, like, this big hyperbole and impossible situations all the time, right? The kid can't just have asthma. He's got to be, like, choking on it in school and be rushed to the hospital. You know, you can't just have a teen pregnancy. It's got to be an 11-year-old that's pregnant. Like, it's always got to be the weirdest thing. Like, I'm a 10-year-old and I've taken every drug that you've never even heard of. I've taken so many drugs, right? Like, whoa, right? Then I don't. So to me, the concept of doing the book is good. I think it was the concept of lying to kids is bad, or feeding. I guess they're not lying, but they're sort of being misinformative of stuff, right? You shouldn't tell kids a pot's going to kill you. When I was 10 years old, I knew pot wasn't going to kill you, right? I knew that it was something my friend's older brother did, but I knew it wasn't going to kill him, right? And as soon as you lie to the kids in a book, everything else you say is a lie to those kids, right? So kids aren't stupid. Stop treating them like they're stupid. I don't like that part of the concept. Like, don't do drugs. I do like that part. So yeah, I gave the whole concept of this book a 3. Right? I thought it was good. I thought it was a good idea. I just think, and using popular characters, using the Titans, like to relate to kids, Speedy, getting as young as superheroes as we can get in there is all good concept. I just thought the whole thing of they really should have gotten some people in there, doctors or whatever, that really, really knew what they were talking about. Anyway, 3 is my concept.
So you think we should be listening to doctors, not politicians? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Any fucking day, right?
I don't want to stir the pot any more than that. That's all. That's all.
I don't need, some representative from somewhere who's a lawyer telling me about health issues, right? Like, fuck. Most politicians are lawyers, as far as I know.
A lot of them are.
Right.
But not necessarily. Yeah.
No.
Some of them are businessmen. Some of them are, even pastors, things like that. It just depends.
Yeah, I get that there's a smattering of stuff, but if you look at the vast majority, they're going to be like political scientist / lawyer guy, right?
Yeah. All right, 3. All right, Kenny. Concept time, buddy. What do you think?
So, let me start by saying that the mission of deterring young people from using drugs and getting caught up in that lifestyle is a social crusade that I hold near and dear. And if I had more free time, I would devote my own time to doing it. I think it's that important. I think it's huge. In saying that, I can't help but put my cynical hat on and say that I would be surprised if this book kept one kid from trying drugs. The fact that this is a government, it's one thing when it's like sponsored from a company and they're trying to push something. The fact that this is a government funded project is this is a 4-color paper representation of how our tax dollars get squandered. And I'm a small government guy. I'm not going to go into, but I think that tax money gets wasted so much. And I shudder at the thought of how much money got pumped into this, getting this book made, when I would wager that these 2 issues by 2 creative guys that on their own volition passionately researched the topic and told a truer story with the same message, I bet you these 2 books made a kid reconsider drugs more than the thing that you dumped all kind of money into. And I think that's just a beautiful analogy for having trying to solve problems with government funded money, taxes, and having private people do it. But I think it was a big miss. I totally understand the seed of the idea, the empathy that is probably being displayed when someone says, let's try to do something to help these kids, man. I get it. But from there, it was just poor execution and, swing and miss on this one, Nancy. You should have put those that money into actual, sobriety groups, and there's a lot of way to spend that. If you had funds to try to help anti-drug causes, you could have did it better than the new Teen Titans, baby. Even though I like comics and everything, you blew it. So fun comic and everything, all that, but I got to be honest, and from a top-down concept, I'm going to give it like a 2. because they had good intentions, but I'm gonna give it a 2.
Kenny coming in with first-hand experience here,
What can I say?
and says that it's deems it non-effective. I think
and
probably
based on, by the way, zero research, anecdotal evidence. Kenny's gut.
anecdotal evidence. I think Keebler actually footed the bill for the create, the creators, or the
Okay.
thing with DC, and the government just allowed them to talk about drugs, because otherwise the comics code would have come in there and put the kibosh on it. But that doesn't take anything away from your analysis. I'm just saying that's the way I think that it occurred.
What do you mean? Didn't the elves make it?
Yeah, the Keebler elves,
with that fairy dust. Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, you know what? I meant to. Part of what contributes to that too, by the way, is the cool workbook, the activity stuff on the back of the book. I actually thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was like, I like that.
Yeah, again, they're trying different, including the declaration there, which I think Miracle talked about. They're trying to bring awareness,
It actually was like critical thinking, like it was like 4 scenarios, right? And they're like asking you to do drugs, and like you write in the character bubble how to turn them down, or that was actually pretty good.
Because in school we were in that situation. You were confronted by people and said, hey, can you want a sample of, I don't know, I don't remember what they get, asked me. And I would politely decline, but that situation did come up in the 80s. Absolutely did.
The activity pages probably bring it up to a 2.5, but I'm going to stick with it.
Now Kenny's vacillating a little bit.
I really like that activity.
All right. Genome, bring it home for us, buddy.
All right. So I will also preface this saying is, much like Kenny, I had a come to Jesus moment, but it was about 24 years ago. So I haven't touched any of them since. And, it's never a bad thing to dissuade people from using it. There's almost no positives that come out of any drugs. There's some small bits. I'll even say this. My mother is on medical marijuana. She had a horrible back injury, and she didn't want to be on morphine and opiates. So she does that. So very, very, very little positive can come out of it. So, anytime, and this was the heyday of this, we had television commercials, and it was constant outreach, and we kind of gave up on that. Now it seems funny and kitschy in a way, and it really shouldn't. It's an important message to drill home to young people to try to stay away from it. And, it's harder to stay away from peer pressure than it is drugs. So, but anyway, getting back to the concept, which kind of ties in this, I can also appreciate that they did this in a standalone issue. Now, what Kenny said was true. The previous Green Arrow story dealing with this was better. But at least in this instance, they didn't just shoehorn collectors into reading or getting a subpar book, right? They at least made it a separate thing. So if you wanted to learn about the war on drugs or give your kid a book about that, they didn't, it didn't hurt collectors. So I think that was kind of a nice little touch too. They put a good artist on there. They put good writer on there for the most part. I don't know. Once again, too many hands are in the kitchen, too many cooks in the kitchen. But so I'd say overall it was a net positive for the most part. And I don't know. The workbook in the back does bear mentioning, which is an excellent idea. I don't know if it actually worked, but my issue, the kid says, no, I don't take drugs. It's bad for you anyways.
Whoa.
So if that kid who took the time to write in there maybe thought of that later on, well, job well done. It's hard to argue with it. So is it ham-fisted? Yes. I also liked that they actually took the time to show every basically demographic except for Asian. I didn't stick an Asian kid in there, right? But so it could happen to young white girls. It could happen to young black kids, right? It can happen to Hispanic. It doesn't matter. It was a universal problem. So they didn't just make it all minorities or all white kids, so they kind of, it's a message for everybody, right? That was also a very wise move, I think, on their part. So positive message, pretty decent execution as far as art goes. Story was, I still think, I'm not saying dumb it down, but I think they should simplify it a little bit more for the younger minds. If this is something that's going to be read to a kid, or if the kid's going to read it themselves, it might not hold their interest. You know what I mean? But it shows there's real consequences. and I do agree. I think they should have made it like, well, I smoke pot, I'm fine. But maybe, you know, my older brother got into heavier drugs. So it doesn't mean just because you're smoking pot, you're going to spiral into this horrible drug abuse and start smoking wet daddy, PCP, freaking laced marijuana by the time you're 12. You know, it's.
You want them to say, I smoke pot and I'm fine in the anti-drug book?
No. But I'm just saying, not fine. Maybe I didn't choose my words carefully enough there, but like.
Revolutionary concept.
But I mean, they could have made it like, look, I'm fine as a storyteller, but it's like, okay, kid, you're fine now. You're 13, but like your older brother who they're putting into the ground right now. You see what I'm saying? So instead of just trying to scare them into thinking they're all going to be hyped out druggies, they could have said, well, you can make better choices earlier on. And even what seems innocuous, like something like pot, it can definitely lead to stronger things. So, but yeah, instead of the whole reefer madness kind of scare, I kind of put on this. So all that being said, I think it was a worthy, endeavor. I think it was a semi-noble one, and I kind of miss some of these PSAs. Comic book seems like a pretty good place for it. You know, a lot of youth outreach there, and I gave it 3.5. It missed on a lot of things. It hit on a few of the important ones, I think, and overall, I'd say is a net positive. So 3.5.
Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff.
Yeah, I would lean into that concept more. I think they should have had a scene in there where there was a kid who was smoking pot, but he had like a hot girlfriend. And he's driving a cool car, and he's like, "I'm fine," and then he has no comeuppance. He's
fine.
Just kidding.
It happened. I mean, I started pretty young myself, so not as young as these kids, but
dude, seeing that a kid wrote in on your issue, that's pretty cool, man.
Isn't it?
Yep, and I have one. My other one has the declaration filled out by a kid.
Wow.
Does it? Yeah.
Maybe it did work. Maybe Kenny's wrong.
Maybe Kenny was wrong. Remember, Kenny? These were kids, man. These were kids. You know, they they're very impressionable. You know.
Yeah, should be right.
Hey, Hydra, how you doing? How you doing, buddy? Good to have you here.
They should have included those free-loving Canadians too.
Yeah, I saw that.
Drug-taking Canadians.
Yeah,
hey, we got our own
the
drug
Fluffy
issues.
guy was really a Canadian who moved. You know,
Hey,
I think may have been a long-lost relative of Miracle. You know,
Right here in Point Pleasant, which is half an hour from me, every police cruiser carries Narcan, several doses of it, and they are used almost daily. It's a really horrible issue right now.
Great comment from Lasso.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
great comment there from Lasso. Yeah, great one. All right.
Calgary
Speaking of great comments, let's kick it over to the chat. Let's see what they think of the concept. You don't need to read the comic. You don't need to see the comic. You just need to know what the concept was and give us an opinion from 0 to 5. Do you think, like Kenny, it missed the mark? That really this is something that could have been better done in another way, like in those drug issues by Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil? Or do you think, like me, that, considering the audience and considering the troubles of the time, which I lived through, that this was a really high-level concept that maybe didn't change, your life, if it didn't hit you in just the right way, but still had impact? Let us know what you think about the concept.
He's still there gesticulating.
Big loves the kids. You know it.
The kids.
You know it.
That's so funny.
Mark Knapp, I forgot to mention that he was in the chat here. How you doing, Mark? Haven't seen you in a while. Hope everything's well. I know where he lives, it's a harsh winter, so maybe
Oh, what state is Mark in? What state?
I think he's over in. Are you in Erie, Pennsylvania, Mark? Is that right? I'm trying to think. I think he's in Erie, Pennsylvania. But he's up there, in the cold, lake effects part. You know what I mean? Oh! Look at J Hood here. Hey, they tried.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I had no problem with him trying. It was the execution was a little bit off. I thought that was my main issue with it.
Yep, I was right. He was over in Erie, so that's right in the corner of New York State, I think, and Pennsylvania there.
Yeah, that thing's a steel trap, huh, Meteorog? You knew it.
Well, I wish, man. It's more like right now. It's more like a kind of a copper trap. It's a little malleable.
And bicycle safety.
But I sent him an AOK sometime back, so I kind of recall.
I sent you some Canadian PSA comics there.
Oh,
Roger,
I love that Zellers one, man.
This is-
It is corny and quirky as heck, and I love it. Love it.
Man, the other ones I was sending to you, Chaos in Calgary, it's all about like be nice to handicapped people. Right?
Yeah, it's kind of like this one, it's like it's like you take the extreme example, and think, well, this is regular,
Hey, that's a key. It's a first appearance there. That Canadian.
Oh
one.
boy. Yeah, here we go with the key stuff. Mr. Miracle is now back in his 5 underrated, things here.
It's on.
The man lives and breathes the stuff,
First appearance of Protector.
Yeah.
Get a little hot.
It was Robin. He wasn't Nightwing. He wasn't Nightwing yet. He wasn't Nightwing till issue 40 something.
Yeah, don't underestimate Protector. That new Titans show might have a very special episode.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, and Kenny, you sent us a link there. This was also a commercial.
Oh, you just
Remember?
reminded me. I had it copied. I'm going to paste it right into the chat now.
Okay, because this was I remember that commercial too. It came out a little bit after the comic.
Yeah, don't want. Click it, keep it in a browser on the side after we finish. Watch that video.
Yep.
And you'll see how calculated. They're like sales pitching them, like, spend your money with DC Comics on this.
And help fight the war on drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, help fight the war on drugs. Seatbelt safety. Couple others I forgot now, but yeah. But there was actually a
With the
TV
forward by Ralph
spot
Nader.
by the Titans as well. I remember during the Saturday morning cartoons.
There was
All right, Gino. What do we got?
Did anyone ever watch Brave Star?
Oh yeah,
The cartoon.
he had that horse, the metal horse.
Yeah, they had an episode dedicated to this, and one of the kids actually died due to drugs. So
Really?
Interesting times. Yep.
Oh, I don't remember.
One of the cartoon kids.
G.I. Joe had a cool the animated movie where G.I. Joe and Cobra team up to fight the drug dealer. And I remember that was my jam back in the day. That was a good movie.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That they had Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah, he slaughtered all addictions. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they tried to give him something, and he was like, "No, I'm not taking." I mean, literally, the man just like ripped the whole Hydra base apart
With his bare
They
hand.
know they had an '80s pro wrestler do the anti-drug, and I know
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Cocaine starts falling out the nose when they walk up to the
that.
camera,
Yeah.
Steroided up. Of course, Hulk did it on just vitamins and prayers. So
Yeah.
Well,
never.
wrestling and drugs kind of like go together, right? I mean,
They kind of do, yeah. Especially
Notice they-
movies. Yeah.
They didn't have Randy Savage do the message. He knows that. But listen, kids, don't do drugs.
Imagine like what was that guy? Dustin Rhodes. Oh, Dustin Rhodes, he don't do drugs. He don't do that.
You don't know hard drugs,
He looked
Daddy.
like he had marbles in his mouth anyway. You never understood anything he said.
There's a few wrestlers like that.
All right, chat came in with 3.8, so a 4.
4. All
Come in,
right.
chat.
Not bad. All right. We're 2 hours and 3 minutes in, so let's wrap it up real quick with our quick overalls. All right. I'll start. I got my little pad here with my grades, and guys, this one is, it's one of those where I don't have a bad grade here. It just depends on how it is that you want to really give a little more credence to one than the other. But I think that the concept here and paired with these creators, the story was a little bit heavy-handed, ham-fisted, and it wasn't exactly, Miracle's right. I mean, they're not lying per se. They're just using a very extreme example. But again, sometimes you have to make a big impact. It's sort of like wrestling in that sense, Kenny. You have to make it so over the top so that you can keep people's attention. And that's kind of, I think, what they were going for here. Too many hands in the pot, though, to make it a real superstar blowout kind of comic. But I still think that this is a comic that if you run across in a cheap bin or whatever, it's worth picking up. It's not canon for Titans, but it's definitely a lot better than a lot of stuff I read, certainly in the 90s. Still in all, it's one of those where it's sort of, the grade is sort of greater than the sum of its parts of that sort of holistic, I guess, because it does have that no ads. It has that great, theme to it. You have that kind of the weird protector guy in there, which was it's kind of like got a little bit of intrigue to it, So I gave it a 4. I thought this was a VF, if we're grading the comic. Definitely something that is, if again, not something I would like say, well, you gotta get it, but it's definitely a very different type of comic, considering that drugs were just off the table as being mentioned even at this time. But this one is actually front and center, and for that alone is something that it's a little bit interesting. So 4 for me. Mr. Miracle.
Yo.
What is your summation, sir?
Might offer a different opinion. It's actually funny that you use that the whole is greater than the sum of all its parts. Because I actually wrote in my notes the exact opposite of that. And this is one of those cases where the whole is less than the sum of its parts. I mean, it had all these elements put together. I thought the art was good, but the story and the misinformation and the weirdness and the heavy-handedness and kids that have to do all the drugs and some of the weird dialogue, and then anyways, I thought, would I recommend this to anybody? No. I don't. And maybe that's my bias. I've never been a big fan of PSA comics. I always think they're just like no story to them. They're just trying to tell you what to do, and I've never liked that. So the overall of this book, I gave it a 1.5. I would not recommend this to anybody to read or buy. If you see it in the dollar bin, keep flipping.
Keep flipping. All right, that's fair. Yeah, different strokes for different folks. All right, Gino, what do you think about this, sir? Give us your overall on this little puppy.
All right, overall cover, I gave it a 3. It was okay. Well drawn. I wasn't crazy about it, but doesn't take away from the artistic achievement of it. But so I gave it a 3. For the story, I gave it a 2.5. Weakest aspect for me. I just didn't know who it was writing for. I don't know. I didn't dig it. There was a message there. It was a little bit convoluted. Get to the point, But so 2.5 in there. Interior art 4, really, really good. Doesn't matter what the subject was. Perez can usually knock out of the park. I had some issues with a little bit of lower extremities for whatever reason. It was always bad for that, but and I hated the color palette, but for the most part it was really awesome. The little vignettes were a definite highlight, and that was a 4. Concept, I gave it a 3.5. Good concept. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey kids, say no to drugs. Say it. And you're doing it in a medium that most kids are more likely to read or see. So that worked out well. So I gave it 3.5, but they did miss on quite a few things there. Overall, Mass says 3.5. I'm actually going to make it a 3. Noble, worthy effort. I'm glad that they did it. But if I had like an 8 or 9-year-old, I don't know if I'd give them this book. I think I'd rather just say, hey, don't do drugs. It might be better to have someone sit down and talk to them about it than read it here. I don't know. The story didn't work for me that well. It was a little convoluted, but the art was really good. But, maybe in this case, the art should have taken a definite backseat to the story. And I don't know. It was a missed opportunity, I think, for the most part, but a worthy attempt, and especially this time because PSAs were not a well-known thing, and most of the time they were aimed at adults. It's time to hit them when it makes a difference is when they're young, right? So that part made sense. They kept it out of the main line of comics, which is good for collectors. I thought was a good idea too. So I'm going to give it a 3. It's a little less than Math just because I think they missed on a couple of key points, but a little bit better than average. So 3.
3 it is.
3.
Thank you very much. All right, Kenny, bring it home, buddy.
All right.
What's your final verdict here?
High marks on the art. Cover I thought was solid. The lower extremities didn't bother me in the book. On that cover though, Speedy's lower extremities are a little off, and that's what I dinged it down to a 3. Inside artwork, I may have got a little excited. I gave it a 4 or 5. But when you're really seeing what Perez is pulling off, page layout like no other, man. Really well done. If it wasn't for that stupid protector glitch that was, out of Perez's hands, it really would have been perfecto. But then when you get to the story, really out of touch writing, people that probably shouldn't be weighing in on the dangers of drugs and how to stay away from them and all that. This is government intervention at its best, squandering tax dollars, brother. But like I said, good intentions. It was good on them. It was fun. 2.5. 2.5.
2.5. All right.
All right. You were paying taxes in 1983.
It's the principle. It's the principle.
Oh yeah. 83. Yeah, that was low inflation. Well, no, actually, there were problems back then. Trust me.
It was trickle down. It
was trickle down. That was the theory of economics.
Economics.
Yeah. But we had the whole mutually assured destruction stuff.
That
was a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of stress back then too.
Upon reflection too, this probably has more to do with the concept, but I'm not sure about that dollar price tag, man. They should have made this like a quarter or something. If they really wanted to get this in a bunch of hands, they should have made it cheaper instead of almost double the price of the average issue at the time.
Yeah, cash grab.
It was a fundraiser.
Give away a free version, right?
You always overpay for fundraisers.
True.
Listen, how many church spaghetti dinners have you gone for $10 that you can get for $4 down the road?
I mean,
it's a fundraiser.
Hot tonight for less than that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of expected. Like the Heroes for Hope thing, that was also charged more than a regular comic, but it was a fundraiser. So. Anyway, so Gino, what's the overall for the chat there? If you have that,
chat came in with a 3.5.
3.5. All right, so none of us hit it on the mark.
I was close.
Yeah,
if I went with math, I would have hit it, but I had to be true to myself.
I think this is one of those rare occurrences where nobody agreed on pretty much anything.
Yeah,
we were all over the place.
I mean, just up, down, over the chat here, that we're there. So, and I kind of figured that this comic would bring that kind of diverse opinion because it depending on how you look at it, it could be pretty bad, or it could be high level because again, I think their heart is in the right place, like Kenny said, but it wasn't realism was not part of this comic. Let's put it.
Leave it to Neil and Denny, brother. They got it covered.
Yeah, Denny hit it well. All right, so now let's talk about 2 weeks hence on Genome Presents channel, and we have a question for the chat, or at least Genome does, because he wants to know what you guys think about either of these two comics. Take it away, Genome.
All right, I'm gonna have to get rid of my green screen once again, and we'll have the comic book guy, your typical comic book collector. Let's read off the choices here. Okay, Genome, let's read off these voices. Oh, there's girls close by. Let's put away these comics. Anyway, got two choices for you today, and so let me know what you think about them. First one, for a reason I take the green screen off. Toxic Avenger #1. The first superhero ever from New Jersey. Take that, Miss Marvel, who's trying to claim that crap. There we go. Toxic Avenger #1. And for getting a little more nostalgic, Avengers #273 for those who like Big John. So, let us know your choices in the chat, and we'll give a few moments, and then we'll tabulate up. So once again, Toxic Avenger #1, Avengers #273.
You judge the fate of next show.
Wow. Did John Buscema do that cover too?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know who did the
That
finishes.
doesn't really look like a Buscema face to me, but
He did a I know he did all the layouts.
Is that Toxic Avenger Marvel?
Yep.
yes. Yeah, they had the license back then.
Let's see.
Yeah.
They didn't break down cover on this one. It just says John Seba breakdowns. So
Okay.
Probably-
and then Paul Beckton is finishing art. So
Okay. All right.
So it's usually,
just didn't
though-
look like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Some
Which
parts do.
Avenger book? Toxic Avenger or The Avengers?
The Avengers, right? All right. Let's see here. We got 1-1, 1-1. Oh,
Something's being avenged.
looks like
Yep,
Avengers is
in some
winning
way.
4-2, unless you
4-2.
guys have different.
4-2.
I don't have either of those.
What?
What? You don't have either of those, James? I'm shocked. I thought you had most everything. I'm totally shocked.
Biggie's vote makes it 5-2.
I'm pretty sure I have both of those. I'm pretty sure. I know I have the Avengers one. Because I have Avengers from the 50s through the end of the run.
And I want a hard copy for the next episode, so I'm going to make sure that right when this show's done, I'm eBay buying whichever one you pick and get that thing shipped home.
They're both gorgeous, aren't they?
Inks by Palmer and Romita. Okay.
Busy
Tom
cover.
Palmer. Yeah, he did ink a lot of Avengers back then. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, looks like Avengers is winning by a landslide here, Genome. So,
Hating on the poor deformed Toxic Avenger. I don't know.
so
Have you no mercy in you, chat?
the radiation mop man is going to have to wait for another episode. So,
All right. So Avengers 273 it is then?
Avengers 273 it is. Everybody go out to your local comic shop or eBay right now so that 2 weeks hence on Genome Presents channel, who is very close to 600 subs. By the way, the links to all these gentlemen are below. So if for whatever, inconceivable reason you are not sub to these guys, do that, or else do not show up here in 2 weeks. Please.
Show your face.
Yeah, show up to these two. Although I think this whole chat has been just a pile of our most loyal and long, I was going to say long suffering,
Well, on some books.
long viewing. And they've been viewing us for a long time, I guess is what I want to say. So that's it, guys. I want to give you guys each a minute to say goodbye, see what's up with you guys and your channels, things like that. As for me, I'm doing a video every Thursday. This week was the roundup. Next week, I got a real doozy of an obscure comic historical thing, which I just discovered. And I can't wait to tell you guys about this one because it is
Man.
this usually, obscure. That's me, right? I mean, the coldest comics out there, that's me. This one, I had to dig almost halfway to China to find this one. So, actually, it's 3 of them. But anyway.
You found that
So
super rare elongated man versus E-Man crossover book. Yeah.
this is bizarre, guys. And I didn't even know this kind of thing existed. So come see my channel next Thursday to see what I'm talking about. Genome, I know you're on every day now, right? You're like Fallout this. You're on with Jay on Fridays. You're on with Bill and Jay on Saturdays. You take Sundays for the Lord, thank God. But everything else, you're here. So what's up for you this week?
Yeah, Sunday is the day of rest for me. That's the only day I don't. Church a couple times that day. So, but yeah, it's gonna be busy tomorrow night. I'll be doing my regular Friday night hangouts starting at 8 p.m. EST. Be there or be square. Be there with Jay and maybe another guest host. We'll see. I don't know about that. Saturday night we should be doing the next in the Clint Eastwood Westerns live watch parties. 7:00 Eastern on my channel. I think we're doing 2 Mules for Sister Sarah this week. So there's that.
Great movie.
Next week,
It's
probably
history.
Monday or so, maybe Tuesday, I'll be doing probably another live stream or live watch party of the next in the horror Hammer Dracula films. I forget which one it is now. might be Scar to Dracula. I can't remember. But so that's coming up. I got lots of other comic stuff to do. I got movie reviews I'm still sitting on and haven't finished. I got lots of review stuff coming up. So more coming on the channel. And of course, next week I'll be trying to get the next in the greatest TV theme songs of all time review series. So that's what's up.
Oh, I enjoy those to no end. They just really bring me back to, those halcyon days of those comedies, and that when they really put a lot of effort into the theme songs and how they synergistically sort of happened as part of the show sometimes, like you did with the Fall Guy. I mean, that was a brilliant song. All right. We got some good comments here. Oh, the Eastman live parties are great. I'm out with the wife on Saturday, so I usually don't watch it. But
Wait, you don't have a phone?
I watched a few of them, and I see Bill there, like there's like a statue there. Anyway, Kenny.
Oh, by the way, I loved Kenny's renaming for this episode. By the way, that was very clever. Very clever.
Thanks.
It's the rename.
Yeah, just say no. Just say no head 84.
Oh, just say no head.
All right, Kenny. Just say no head 84. What say you head 84 for this week?
Well, there is lately Mega Power Hour might not be every Friday like recently, but you know what? That just means it's gonna be more extra special when we do make it happen. I'm thinking we might have to make one happen tomorrow.
Nice.
So I'll check with the crew and see. Actually, I haven't been. I've been kind of taking a pause on picking up books and stuff, but I did pick up some recent stuff, so maybe we'll fire it up tomorrow. But next Friday is another. I'm doing another auction on the channel, y'all. Myself, D-Runk Comics, back at it again. He's got this mountain of slabs that he is getting through, so he has a lot of goodness. I've got some hot tamales, Biggie Shack, and I keep the panels smaller. I think that makes everything go smoother. 4 is kind of my sweet spot. And I'm bringing in the special guest seller. Last time was DS Comics. This time we're going to be joined by Gorilla Todd Comics. So he's always got great stuff. He'll be hanging out. That's next Friday. And that's pretty much all that's on the agenda at the moment.
All right, cool.
You should reach out to Matt, too. I know he's trying to get rid of a bunch of books.
Matt Woods?
No, Gonzalez.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you had 7.
All right, Miracle. Take us home, buddy. What's up?
All right. So I got another Undervalued video coming up here. I got it all organized. I just got to film it. Bad YouTuber. Sunday I'll be on Kabi's channel, Comic Books NYC. We're going to do a little unboxing. I sent him a package that he just got today, so we're going to do that. Gray Man, if you're still out there in the audience, keep your eyes open. Your package has been in the mail for 8 days now. Remember last episode, Gray Man won a sketch cover comic book from me.
That's right.
So keep your eyes open there, Gray Man. And here is the drawing that I did today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Protector? Was it Protector?
No.
Oh!
Whoa!
You gotta make that one big, Roger.
Hold on a second. Let me make them big.
Wow, there's a lot going on this.
That's Razor Ramon. That's not Tony Montana. Oh.
Say hello to my little friend.
Wow.
Got the munchies and cookies. Oh, it's drugs.
It's a good perspective shot, by the way, on your M16 with 203 attachment. That's very nice.
There you go. Yeah, I know. Don't think the irony of like a cookie company putting out a "Don't Smoke Pot" comic is lost on me. And I'm like, guys, this is your like main customers. Maybe you want to like leave those guys alone. Anyway, it's
like Doritos sponsoring an anti-pot commercial, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's like, no, you can't do that. Like, anyway, yeah, that's all I got really coming up. And I always throw down and get some more YouTube every once in a while. I sneak in there. If anybody will let me on the show, people don't really like me all that much. So. They're like, oh, not
Well,
this
thanks
guy.
for that. That was really
Not
cool.
this guy.
I like the Scarface one, that because that was around the same time as this comic, I think.
Yeah, I
And,
know. I kind of got into the idea of it.
Yeah, that was actually filmed in Miami in a restaurant that I've gone to a few times.
Looks kind of like Walter Koenig with jaundice.
Yeah, it does look a little jaundiced, doesn't it? Yeah. And Speedy looks a little bit like zombie-ish, but that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, I'm not drawing for you guys anymore. Man, always
no, but the zombie look, I think, is kind of like a drug thing. I mean, I've seen some guys who
they had that zombie drug that was going on in Miami actually a couple years ago. Remember?
I've seen some guys that
ate the
like
other dude's face or whatever.
maybe it's just the lighting in here. I don't know.
Yeah, it's good coloring.
Yeah, good point. All right, guys, let's get out of here. Go to your families. Go kiss your wives. Or Kenny, go kiss your roommate. Whatever.
No, that's all right.
Kiss those books behind you.
And thanks as always to this great chat for sticking with us all this time. We've run over a little bit more than usual, but it's Graders Notes. You got to kind of like, you have to give us a little bit of leeway here when we get passionate about things. So. All right, guys. Good night. God bless everybody. 2 weeks from today, Genome's channel, Avengers 273. Be there, read it, digest it, and get ready for Graders Notes 2 weeks from today. Miracle, Comichead, Genome, you guys are the best. God bless each and every one of you. Good night.
Thanks.
Boom.
He did what I usually do.
Yep. He took off. See you later, guys. Hold down the fort.
All right, so we're gonna be live streaming for the next 24 hours straight. So if y'all want to take breaks, and we'll come out.
Did you not shut up the live stream?
No, he just left. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's moon the camera.
Yo, that was a good time. It's not on my channel.
Yeah, exactly, right.
I'm sure he'll catch up.
Let's play an NFL game in the background.
Yeah.
No.
And I'll get some Vince McMahon promo stuff going on over here. It'd be perfect.
NFL's greatest hits.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No, we have really fun chat. If y'all want to split, I'll hold it if you want. Or I guess I don't know what happens if we all leave, if the room stays open or not.
If we leave, we're done.
I was itching to get dinner, so guys, I'm gonna leave this to you. Peace and love. Responsibly hold down this channel.
All right, I'll send him a quick message.
Yeah, I gotta go eat too, man.
All right. I guess I'll try leaving too, and hopefully it shuts down. If not, I'll send him a message.
Okay.
All right. Night all.
Bye, brother.
Sorry. I forgot to end the stream. Bye, guys.